Today, we're going to talk about 3 Marvel fan castings that actually came true. First up is Nick Fury, and this one is really interesting. Originally, the Nick Fury of the main 616 universe of Marvel Comics was your run-of-the-mill Cold War-era spy. He was a big, buff white dude with salt and pepper hair. He probably drank scotch and smoked a ton of cigars. But when Marvel Comics unveiled the Ultimate imprint, which was a newer, hipper version of the main 616 universe, they recast Nick Fury. And they basically stole Samuel L. Jackson's entire image. In the comics, they even referenced how similar Fury and Jackson looked. It was entirely intentional, too, since Mark Millar and Brian Hitch were trying to think of the most badass person in the world to play the comic book part of Nick Fury. When Marvel Studios was actually able to cast Samuel L. Jackson as Fury, not only was it an affirmation of long-standing fan cast, but it actually brought the comics 100% to life. And by the way, if you haven't checked out the Ultimates Volumes 1 and 2, do yourself a favor and give them a read. As a 12-year-old kid, I thought they were incredible, and you'll find a lot of storylines in those books that the MCU would later use, namely the Chitauri invasion that we saw in the first Avengers movie. Although, fair warning, the Ultimates definitely tries a little bit too hard to be edgy. And the Hulk is a horrible cannibalistic monster in the series, which is kind of a letdown. And also, not to be too much gloom and doom, but make sure you avoid the later volumes of the books altogether. They eventually include vampires and even a vampire Captain America, and it's just, one gigantic big mess. Second on this list is Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange. Alright, so completely honest, I never thought this was going to happen. In fact, I thought it was actually pretty stupid. Again, this fan casting was entirely based on the fact that Cumberbatch kinda sorta looked like Stephen Strange from the comics, and because he had also played a geeky, aloof genius in the BBC series Sherlock. I personally wanted to see Joaquin Phoenix in the role, but the rumor at the time was that Joaquin Phoenix just didn't want to commit to a giant multi-picture deal. My second choice, and the one I secretly hope would have been cast, was Jeff Goldblum. Just think about that. It would have been really awesome. I know that's completely out of left field, but could you imagine Jeff Goldblum up to his old Goldbluming antics as Doctor Strange? My hopes and dreams would be shattered eventually, though, as Cumberbatch became available for the MCU, and he signed on officially to star in 2016's Doctor Strange. Since then, he's appeared in a ton of MCU flicks, Thor Ragnarok, Infinity War, Endgame, and No Way Home. It's kind of obvious that those appearances and cameos are based on the fact that the folks at Marvel just want us to remember who Doctor Strange is, because by the time the Multiverse of Madness releases, it will have been 6 years between his first movie and his sequel. The last fan cast we'll talk about today is Ryan Reynolds. He was actually a huge fan favorite to become Deadpool before he was finally cast in the role in X-Men Origins Wolverine. Way back when, in the early days of comic book movies, Reynolds earned his way into every fanboy's heart by saving the absolute mess of a movie known as Blade Trinity. He played Hannibal King, and kind of like his comic book counterpart, went on to participate in a battle against Dracula. Now, even though that movie was popularly regarded as one of the worst comic book movies of the time, spoiler alert, I actually kind of liked it, Reynolds immediately climbed to the top of fan casting charts for nearly every sarcastic superhero. And as you know, sarcasm basically means Deadpool. Now, since we know that the MCU has regained the rights to Deadpool and Reynolds himself has confirmed they're moving forward with a third movie, I'm going to place the Merc with a mouth at the top of my list of MCU fan castings that actually came true. Now, I know it's a bit debatable since Deadpool began his career over at Fox Studios, but I don't really care.